Hello and welcome everyone here. There are only two people here because we trickle in present in person and everyone online. Today I'm Karen Craigo and my topic is work. I'm working on a collection of essays called The Business, um, Lessons about Meaning from the World of Work. And so this is some of my thinking that's gone into my essay collection. Let's start though with a little quote from Walt Whitman. I hear America singing. I hear America singing, the varied carols I hear, those of mechanics, each one singing his as it should be, blithe and strong, the carpenter singing his as he measures his plank or beam, the mason singing his as he makes ready for work or leaves off work, the boatman singing what belongs to him in his boat, the deckhand singing on the steamboat deck, the shoemaker singing as he sits on his bench, the hatter singing as he stands, the woodcutter's song, the plowboy's on his way in the morning or at noon intermission or at sundown, the delicious singing of the mother or of the young wife at work or of the girl sewing or washing, each singing what belongs to him or her and to none else. The day, what belongs to the day. At night, the party of young fellows, robust, friendly, singing with open mouths their strong, melodious songs. I love Walt Whitman because he has this tremendous love for humanity, and as we kind of prepare to think about the world of work, this is it's just nice to think about all the different roles people have. Of course, these are roles we might consider a little sexist today. He was writing in the 1800s, and women are doing sewing, and men are doing manly stuff, and now we have different roles, but expansive spirit. Anyway, okay. Does anybody seen the meme online about work where people describe their work in terms that are boring or ridiculous? Right? So a doctor would say, I help people stop leaking. Right? So that's a doctor down to the most basic terms. A teacher, I repeat myself until people remember stuff. Software developer, I tell computers what to do and they argue with me. Pilot, I drive a metal tube through the sky. Jerry, you drive a bus. What's a simple, ridiculous way to describe what you do? Can you think of something? Like an artist says, I make pretty things that confuse people. And then you were involved in publishing, right?
I was a teacher.
You were a teacher.
Yeah.
So
I taught college, high school, and eighth graders.
College, high school, and eighth grade. So is it true? I repeat myself until people remember stuff? Is that the most basic reductionist view? How about you?
I don't know if anything is, I think everything's special,
Yeah,
okay?
definitely. Everything's special. Jerry's saying.
I don't know that, oh, we gotta do that.
Yeah.
We take over that job.
Oh, we've got a
Job, I got this.
we've got a microphone man. There's a job.
Microphone.
I'm not paying you. You just get the dignity of knowing you did a job well.
Is that working?
That works
That works.
perfectly.
Yeah, I don't know, I include the bus driving into waking up in the morning and to just, I can't, I'm trying to wrap my mind around something special about bus driving. And the only thing I can think of that's important is I don't hit nothing else.
Well, that's pretty important.
Okay,
Not hitting
that's
things.
it.
Yes.
That's it.
So, welcome. We were just talking about the internet meme of work being reduced to its most ridiculous and simple terms, like a zookeeper. I make sure wild animals don't eat anyone, or a social media manager saying, I post memes and try not to get canceled. So,
I think that's really unfortunate because if that were the case, then robots could do it.
Yeah.
And that's why humans are doing so many of these tasks because it's important if someone's willing to pay you for it, then it needs to be done. And
That's a great
it
point.
creates value to the community.
Yeah. And there's automatically dignity to it.
Yes.
So. But I think it's just intended to be a fun way to talk about our jobs and kind of have some gallows humor, like an actor saying, I pretend to be someone else for a living. A nurse saying, I fix what doctors miss. So anyway, work, the word work is from Old English. Labor, that's from Latin, but work is from Old English, and it dates from before 1150, and its meaning was originally to prepare, perform, do, make, strive after, or set in motion, which I like a lot. And that meaning of physical labor or plying your trade, like going to the office and doing work, didn't come until a couple hundred years later. That word wrought, like wrought iron, past tense of work in the Old English. I found some statistics from the Bureau of Labor Statistics from last year. On average, people work 8.1 hours per day on weekdays and 5.5 hours on weekends. The top 10% of income workers work 4.4 hours more per week than the bottom 10%. I don't know if that's because the bottom 10% is hobbling together lots of part-time jobs, or if it's because they're doing things like shoveling coal and running pavement saws, and you can't do that all the time or you surely die. So, but those are the statistics. There are about 2,080 working hours in a year for those with a 40-hour work week, and the average person will spend 90,000 hours at work over a lifetime. That's a staggering figure when you think about it. So a little bit about me. I'm a business journalist. I work for Springfield Business Journal, and I cover workplace trends, workforce needs, anything about work. That's sort of what I cover, and I cover local government too, as I was telling you. What I found is a lot of local companies are working very hard to attract people. It's something that almost everything comes back to is the need to attract members of the workforce. Everybody's kind of scared because we have a declining workforce. It's just a demographic thing that we have not maybe enough people being born for all the people that will eventually need to care for them and to cover all the roles that there are. So I do a feature, we all do, in my place called Office Envy, and we go to cool offices and take pictures once a year, and we showcase all the neat things about some special office buildings. I think that's too close. Okay. And I've seen things like privacy chambers and nursing pods. I've seen air hockey tables and ping pong, free snacks, workout rooms, walking trails, lending libraries, pet accommodations where they'll have a dog bed and they'll have a place to walk your dog at work. One very interesting company locally does, yes, I'm going to try to turn down my audio a little if I can figure out this piece of equipment. Hello? This might be better. Okay. I think maybe I nailed it. So personal assistance. This company I'm talking about offers a personal assistant for its workers. So somebody will go take your stuff to the post office or do any errands that you have. That's an interesting perquisite for a company to offer. And massages. Some of them offer massages. Have you guys heard of any interesting, our room is filling up, by the way, if you're online. Have you guys heard of any interesting benefits offered by companies to attract workers?
Online.
What's that?
Online.
Yeah, letting people work remotely. And then so many of them are kind of going away from that now. Something that they got used to during the pandemic. It's weird because they don't necessarily have to, because people are doing their job remotely, but they're trying to get people back. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to talk about it online. Is the reason is because of your retail businesses in a downtown setting are set up for people taking their lunch, and so if you happen to be invested in some retail location that's all over the country, you're going to want to put them back to work in their building so that they have to go down there and shop.
That's a great point, that so much of our culture is based on traditional ideas about work. And when we start to question how we work, then a lot of things can fall apart, like your sandwich shop downtown. Very good point.
Even the mall.
Yeah?
I always like to go back to the buggy whip maker. You could have swore to God that the car thing was a passing fad.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes we're in businesses now that we may not realize that they are buggy whip manufacturers too. Has anybody else heard of cool benefits or perks?
I give free tarot readings.
Free tarot readings.
Oh,
Well,
very
that's cool. Yeah.
I said free tarot readings for my 2 employees.
Yeah, 2 employees, and this is Cedar, and you have a metaphysical shop. Yes. What's it called?
Mystical thoughts.
Mystical Thoughts. So that is a very cool benefit. My company was offering unlimited paid time off, but then they started to see that that might not be a reasonable thing. But statistics kind of tell us that when people have unlimited PTO, they don't take it. They don't even take what they used to, like the 2-3 weeks they used to. They just work and work and work. But then somebody, bucks that trend, and you've got a little crisis on your hands. So not that that's happened for us, but so a lot of companies are seeing younger workers crave connection. So they're offering things like service projects, time off to volunteer, paid time off to volunteer. They're matching donations, something that's happened for a long time. Some of them are even adopting nonprofits or schools, and the company will go have a work day at the school. Have you guys heard of those things? But we're finding that companies see that, especially Gen Z and other younger workers, they don't care as much about conventional benefits. They want to feel like they're part of something important, which I think is lovely.
Wow.
Yeah, it's kind of nice that we've got that mindset coming in and sort of bucking some trends about what work should be. There's a guy, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. This is camera.
So years ago, I went to a Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation leadership training. Say that too much. And they had a man's video that posited that the country was, that people's gut level value systems were formed around age 10 and 11. And he went on to substantiate that with things like our generation, when the factory closed down, we wanted to punch out and go home, but by gosh, we wouldn't be involved with and up all in it. And our parents' generation would stay all through the night to get the equipment, keep things rolling and work on the equipment. And we're like, the work ethic was a whole other thing. And then he talks about how that plays out in the later generations. His other thing he said was that the people in their 60s were the people in power at any given time. And so at that time, I thought, oh, someday, this was like in the 60s and 70s, whole different consciousness. Like someday we'll be the generation in our 60s. So that just stuck with me. So all the years that when you were sharing that, I thought it's really it's significant to look at the difference in consciousness of a generation, sort of. So, cutely defined, but that general and approaching things with that has seemed to be starting to be more acknowledged by Google and Amazon and people that see the younger people you were talking about with the different kinds of interests that they're tuning into and offering more. So I love this sharing that you're doing and just bringing that awareness to people's minds, about each other.
Oh, thank you. I think we should talk about work because we do spend so much time doing it, and it's usually seen as not a spiritual endeavor and just the thing we do to be able to do our spiritual and other stuff. But it's our lives.
It is our lives.
We better embrace it. Here's a thought. You got such a good microphone man here, Jerry.
It was making me think of something that, well, I've thought before. I think anthropologists have estimated that most hunter-gatherer cultures spend around 20 to 25 hours a week in actual work, and the rest of the time was spent with socializing.
Really?
And so it's very different from what we think of as, in the US, 40 hours being standard work week, I think maybe 35 in some European countries. And so it's very different, and it's no wonder that people feel stressed if most of our evolution, we have not been spending that many hours working. But at the same time, at 20 hours a week, that doesn't put humans on the moon or create the internet. Some of these amazing things that humans have done that require a lot of time. And if people are looking at changing the workplace, because I wondered, how do you balance the two? Wonderful human inventions and progress with the stress level that comes with that.
Yeah.
And so if employers are trying to change the workplace to make it a more friendly, communal place with more self-care aspects to it, that maybe that's a way to balance the two and bringing work into that it's not just something that you do in order to be able to do everything else. That, in ancient times when people were working, it was very obvious that this directly affects, the gathering and maintaining of the equipment that's used, that people were very aware that what they were doing in their work was directly contributing to the survival of their community. And today we've kind of lost that, and a lot of people feel like, just a cog in the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really wonderful that employers are bringing more attention to making work feel meaningful.
Isn't that interesting? I haven't read this yet, but anthropologists say that 20 hours a week was put into hunting and gathering work, and then the rest was socializing. That's fascinating, because you would think they would be doing that nonstop, instead of relationship building. I would have thought it'd be the opposite too. So that's something I'm gonna, anytime I hear something interesting, I go read about it. So something I'm gonna read about. Thanks for mentioning that. It's another, more cynical way of looking at it is when workplaces are offering chances to have fun and connect. They're just trying to keep you there. It's it's not necessarily for your good necessarily, but you know what? Some business owners and leaders are compassionate folk who do care a lot about things like that.
Well, no matter, at least they're trying something new and thinking about what the people really want.
I'm hearing the comment that people at least are trying something new, thinking about what people want. There's a guy here. Oh, go ahead.
Well, just better than a kick in the pants.
That's right. Which I've certainly had to. So there's a guy here named Jack Stack, and he is the founder of SRC Holding Corporation. You guys know about SRC locally. That's a remanufacturing company for engines. They started with International Harvester, and then the employees all bought out SRC, and employee-owned company. It's got 5 divisions, and maybe I forget how many thousand workers, and they're in lots of places. One of our biggest companies in town. This guy, though, I in my job have gotten to interview Jack many times. I absolutely think he's a sage. He's so smart, and has so many great observations about work. And I'm going to talk about him a little bit later. But he told me that, and I checked this out and found information about this online too, the economists are forecasting, and they have been for a long time, that the year 2030 is going to be a little bit of a point of no return for our culture, where there won't be enough people to absorb the social overhead and the expenses on a federal level, that we have, like I said earlier, a lot of people aging out of the economic activity, not enough people coming in to take their places. Here in Springfield, we've closed down a few schools. We're seeing a they're seeing trends that we're having fewer people come through. And that means that we might not have farm workers and we might not have people to take care of that older population I was talking about. Their caregivers, where are they going to come from? And factories are having to contend with the fact that they need to compete against one another for workers. So, according to predictions by consulting firm Korn Ferry, they sponsor our local golf tournament. They're out their consultancy. The global talent shortage could reach 85.2 million people, costing up to $8.5 trillion in lost economic opportunity. That's by 2030. And the U.S. Census Bureau projects that by 2035, the number of individuals over the age of 65 will outnumber children for the first time in U.S. history. That's something from early March of this year.
And that's by when?
Oh, that's by 2035. So, people are trying to solve this problem, not just through these kind workplace practices. This doesn't sound like a church talk, does it? We get around to the spiritual elements of this. But I recently interviewed the IT director for Fiocchi America. Do you know this company? They make ammunition. I think they're in Ozark. Fiocchi. I may be pronouncing it wrong. Fiocchi America. And he was talking about how ammunition is kind of old technology, and their machine is not super modern stuff. It's old stuff, but they use some very current Internet of Things. It's called IoT, Internet of Things technology to track their machinery, and they can make sure that things are operating at their most efficient. So if a machine lags even a little bit, they get a message on email saying, check this out, and they can find out from this technology applied to their old machines that maybe some of the materials they've put in the machine are too thick and it can't work efficiently that way. Or something along those lines. There's something wrong, needs maintenance, something like that, so they can keep things going. That's one way people are trying to maximize their outputs with technology. And I also talked to a guy from IT director of Pinnaker Honda. That seemed like a very low-tech industry, car sales, but they have a service area, and they're putting in new technology where when you pull in, they're going to read your license plate and service records up. They know immediately before you even park your car who you are, what's going on with your vehicle, if they've seen you before, just facts about the type of vehicle that you drive, any recalls, anything like that. So they have all the information they need for new and existing customers. And they'll even scan your tires and check your alignment and make sure that, they can tell you immediately, oh, we see that you need alignment work or you need this or that. There are things it can tell you. Well, what's that do? That makes it so instantly they know things. They don't have to spend a lot of time info searching. And it's going to be crucial that businesses can get the information they need right away. The goal is to be faster and more efficient, which, because we're here, I should mention, is not very Zen-like, right? Zen, like Buddhism, tells us to do one thing at a time and do it mindfully. And it's just kind of interesting, all the information coming in. It sort of like works against that. I found a quote, in walking, just walk, in sitting, just sit, above all, don't wobble, by Yunmen Wenyan. But I've heard a version of that. That, when you're doing your dishes, just do your dishes mindfully. So, any thoughts before I move on? I'm seeing like thoughtful looks.
I personally like where everything's going myself.
Yeah.
Because it's starting to free people up to be creative, and they don't have to spend so much time trying to just deal with the mumbo jumbo of life every day. I don't know how far it's going to go. I'll probably long and gone before it gets there. At the same time, I just enjoy seeing it. I see so much difference in just the kids that I haul
Mhm.
in my bus is because this makes no sense to them. They're like, look around. These are some crazy people.
How
Okay.
so? What makes no sense?
Well, their energies are so much higher where you try to tell them something that may have gone on 30 years ago. They're like, why? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
And so I
hear that at home.
yeah, but it's great because then they can step out on their own and be creative.
Mhm.
Because technically everything that's going on, we hear so much of this doom and gloom. It's just crap. It's just getting better all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, there are companies out there who are really, really making a difference.
Yeah.
And if you keep your hand on the pulse of that is going to grow, you can't help but be excited about it and be excited for them.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't know how all of this is going to play out.
Right. We don't.
Nobody ever does.
We don't.
But it feels good.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it there.
And you had a thought.
Yeah, when you were talking about being present with whatever you're doing, there was an interesting study that kind of backs that up. Where
You
they
read
had
a lot.
a background in science on
Tell
all
us
these
stuff,
studies. What's the data on this? That they had people, I think, on their phones, an app that would ding randomly and ask somebody to input, what is your current level of happiness, or, are you in good mood, bad mood, etc. But to also say what you're doing, and are you thinking about what you're doing, or are you thinking about something else? And there was a significant correlation between being present with what the person was doing at the time and feeling better.
Yeah.
Even when, and I think they were also asked to rate whether the task that they were doing was pleasant or unpleasant, how pleasant or unpleasant they found it. And even with unpleasant tasks, you would think that, well, if you can think of something else while you're doing it, that would make it better, but it didn't. So even, scrubbing the toilet, if your mind is just on that and not, going off on something else, people tended to feel better, more present than were.
Does that sound right to you, John? Shrub.
I was also thinking, I was looking back at my work life that I used to have. And when you were talking about the whole thing about the 20 hours, hunting and gathering first, and then socialization. And I've worked in both, mostly rural, but also some larger, not really too urban, but larger towns like Columbia, Jeff City, Raleigh, versus El Dorado Springs, Nevada, Warsaw, Butler, kinds of offices. And my experience was in the smaller offices, we ate together. We'd eat lunch, and that would be across professions, because because of the rurality of it. And so there was this a different culture. In the larger offices, there was less connection among, and then over time, the technology has changed so that the business is more efficient, but we see each other much less.
Interesting. Especially across, like, the CEO is not with the line worker necessarily.
Correct. Or the contact is on your computer or your phone.
That's funny. At our workplace, the contact is on the computer. Even though we're sitting by each other, we'll say like 10 words to each other in the morning when we're getting the day's news out. But we're just talking. Like I started there, and I'm the big chatty person, and I just realized, oh, not the culture. But then online we're sending memes and super chatty. But that's an interesting point. That it speaks to me of like need and how it can bring people together. I'm from a small town, and you know, everybody was kind of on board with all the stuff that happened because we didn't have a lot of, couldn't pursue our own individual direction necessarily. I'm going to go back to Jack Stack. So weird to not be talking about Jesus and stuff, but Jack Stack, he's just this great brain locally. He says this. This is a quote from when I interviewed him earlier this year. To me, business is music. It's a composition of putting all kinds of notes together so you come out with a beautiful song and you get to sing it every day, and it kind of pumps you up. It gets you excited. And I know it's crazy that I try to get people excited about work, but there's something about achievement, incentives, and awards and celebrations and taking the high road of the successes in business. And then the low road, you can obviously handle, this sounds like Jerry, because everybody knows what to do when the low road hits you. We know there's going to be low roads out there. Let's just prepare for them when they come, and let's take advantage of recessions or downturns. Don't look at life as being scared. Look at it as an opportunity to put yourself in a position to be able to build your community stronger than most communities. We've got a different perspective on opportunities, growth, and people. So that's lovely that he sees the down times as a time of gathering and a time that we can make the most of opportunities. I'm business people, I'm sure, invest differently when there's that's not my world, but I invest in things like groceries, like primary investment. I love that optimism. And you know who it matches is Myrtle Fillmore. I was reading some of her thoughts about work from a collection called Healing Letters that collects some of her letters. Here she is on seeing work as divine expression. We are here to represent God, and we do this best by working as God works, lovingly, wisely, and perfectly. No pressure. It's working perfectly. But she has some beautiful things to say about work. Whatever the nature of your work, if you see it as a way to express God's perfect ideas, you will find joy and satisfaction in all that you do. Suppose I need to dig down on God's perfect ideas. Anybody have any thoughts about what Myrtle's talking about there?
I think one of the best analogies of life is 90% of it is chopping wood and carrying water.
Yeah.
So
Another
love the thing that makes you want to chop wood and carry water.
You know, the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff series.
Yeah.
And I think that's a part of what that is that, you know, there's lots of details in work, lots of things to do, and they're not unimportant, and yet, if you get caught up in all the self-talk, ego of the details, it puts a drag on the experience, whatever it is, including work. And I think that it's about what she's talking about is being at a place of, you know, of energy, of love, being that, you know, something that, you know, I'm doing this out of a purpose that I maybe don't even understand, but that makes it more than me.
So it's godlike to see the holism, and then these parts that may seem imperfect perhaps have a reason that we can't know. Don't sweat the small stuff. That's a perfect analogy. On divine order, Myrtle Fillmore says, we must work with the understanding that God's law of harmony and order is ever present. In balancing our lives, we fulfill our duties joyfully, knowing that divine wisdom guides us in all our affairs. That certainly is unity talk. I don't know if Jack was talking unity, but Myrtle, we're back to home base. On co-creation. When we approach our tasks with a spirit of cooperation with God, our work becomes an act of co-creation and an avenue for good to flow into the world. I should mention in this Healing Letters, she was talking about the work of founding our church, largely. That's Myrtle's work. So, and healing herself and just being an all-around badass. That's Myrtle's work. So, On the power of rest and renewal, Myrtle Fillmore says, "It is as important to rest in the stillness of God as it is to work in His strength. In this rhythm of work and rest, we find peace and renewal." And I hope we'll all internalize that need for rest and for self-love, because that's so important, and that was important to her in her work of founding Unity. And she says, "When we give thanks for our work and those we serve, we open ourselves to greater blessings and joy in all that we do." So these quotes kind of embody Myrtle Fillmore's belief that work, when it's approached with a spiritual mindset, can become a fulfilling and sacred expression of our own divinity. She has another, I was reading one of her letters. She says, "Remember and be encouraged, dear, that when we began to awaken and feel the urge to minister, there was no such thing as a unity center, not even friends who saw things as we did. We did come in touch with a few and were together in a class, but we all had to branch out and start using what we got in our own way, meaning whatever need presented itself." Here she's talking about using our own resources. It's a challenge of work, is sometimes creativity is not necessarily rewarded at your office, right? But in our work, the part of ourself that works, I think there's some stuff we can take from this. We didn't ask for work. It just came right to our home. Somebody would hear through another that we had something good and would come. When we do our best and continue to look for God for our light, to God for our light and ability and opportunities for expression and service, the divine law works out our problems, and we have more grace and glory than we had anticipated. Kind of talking about how, like a perpetual motion machine, that like the work itself kind of can drive our, she's talking about pure work that we do, the things that, the agency that we take to do the things we'd like to accomplish. The Bible also addresses work quite a bit. In Matthew 9:37, Jesus quotes Jack Stack as saying, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." So 2030. He means that spiritual work needs all of us, I think. Maybe what he meant. He says, "Do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink." Here's the famous part of the quote. "Seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. If you went to Sunday school like I did. And of course, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give His life as a ransom for many. So Jesus was a model of servant leadership, demonstrating that work has divine value, especially when we do it for the benefit of larger whole. Jesus was also a union guy. He said in Luke 10:7, "The worker deserves his wages." That's an important principle to remember too with work. We shouldn't let ourselves be exploited. We deserve our compensation. We deserve what we get, Jesus said. So give me a raise. Take that to your boss. See what they say. And he also says that when you're feeling overwhelmed by work, Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Any thoughts on what Jesus meant when he said, "I will give you rest," when you're heavy burdened? Yeah.
I think maybe similar to what Unity calls the Christ consciousness, that when you're weary, come back to your center. That means just breathing or taking a walk in the outdoors, just coming back to your personal and spiritual center.
Yeah. Well put.
And to drill that down even a little deeper, I would say to the current moment, as opposed to worrying about what's going to happen in the future or feeling dragged down by what has occurred in the past. To just bring yourself just in that current moment.
the problem with the mind is it always wants to go somewhere else. Whatever happened in the past that was bad, did it happen to you? More than likely not. It just happened it was something you saw. And so you project out in the future. Boom. The bad's going to happen out there. I'm coming towards it. It's just I even though I do have these moments where I will feel and remember what fear is like, fear is probably one of the most useless emotions a human being can have. It truly is.
And also, people don't even realize they're being fearful. We're so personally and socially, you could say desensitized or just used to the pattern of however we were raised, what brought us to this place of how we evaluate stuff. But what I think is interesting about kind of the whole arena of this, that as it relates to work and in your inside personal with yourself relationship and politically, socially, internationally, we have entered into, it's been a couple of decades or few now, but still really new and very fast changing shape of the internet changing the shape of everything. And so, it takes a while for people to experience that. And then I thought it was awesome that it took us internally. The internet, it kind of people were attracted to it because it takes you into the focus that's really where it's at, But then they go there and it's shaded and used the mental faculty as the whole approach there. So we kind of miss the core of that. Then we come back out and so now it seems to me like we've done that long enough like that what I hear you saying is that we're starting to find our way back to connecting to ourselves, to socially and the workplace, and finding the soul part of bringing this heart and soul back into that in a way. I think we kind of, even what's happening in our country politically is we all kind of just were sitting back doing a thing and not paying attention and being as involved in our own happenings, and everybody, at least it's bringing everybody out and together and interacting and learning what we do think and feel and sharing that and stuff. So anyway,
that's a great part of our work lives.
Yeah, and that what she said made me think about the technology of money and Bitcoin, and that really money is just this, it doesn't really exist. It's just an idea. And that's what business is based on, is making money. And yet it's all kind of illusory. It's kind of interesting to think about that.
So true. Now, I like separating work that we get a paycheck for from this work, the things that we're compelled to do, like Bertil Fillmore was talking about, and having that kind of profession that's dictated by our spirit. And it's Sunday morning, all over town. There are different ideas about faith being expressed, and a lot of people are real focused on heaven. And we've got the school of thought in some churches where they say faith and not works gets you to heaven. And you've got Calvinist tradition that thinks work is very important, the things that we need to do some things to earn our way to heaven. And we've got Catholicism with a massive things to do list that you have to follow to kind of earn your way to heaven. And what's the Unity idea of heaven? It's like the old Palmolive commercial. You're soaking in it. We're in it. This is heaven. You want to make it more heaven, you just turn up that heaven bit. You want to make it, you want hell. We're not going to give it to you, but you probably create your own personal version of hell around you. But it's interesting that just how that relates to work. That we don't have to do anything. We're more like that faith and not works school of thought. We don't have to do anything. But I think here we kind of focus a lot on minding our vibration and making sure that we're presenting ourselves in a way that's honest to ourselves and that, kind of resonates with our inner guide. So, yeah, you have a thought.
Well, yeah, my thought on what you're just saying is that the I act part
Yeah.
is vocation
Right, yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
So that it is, being a creative entity includes action and work or vocation, whether it's for money or whether it's vocation that you're called to do, whether you're gardening or cleaning your home or you're
Or you're sitting.
Yeah, playing music or yeah. Well, the sitting may be part of the steps before action.
Yeah, that's a good point. It does seem like our holy text, even though we're quoting Myrtle, we're quoting Buddhism, we're quoting Christianity, our real holy text is inside of us. It's a rule book. It's our own contract, employment contract that we're following. So we kind of know what to do if we seek our inner guidance. I thought it would be interesting to think about the spiritual lessons we can derive from thinking about our spirit as, a Springfield employer or employer anywhere in this country and largely through the world. How do they think about attracting and retaining workers? I know here in Springfield, we talk a lot about quality of place and telling the rest of the world about all our great hiking and rafting opportunities and all the good things we have to offer. We've got high-speed internet covering the whole town, and the Wall Street Journal came out with a report last year saying that we're the #1 spot to work from home in. A lot of people are coming from the more expensive coasts and coming here to buy real estate that they consider very affordable, although they're driving up maybe our costs, so we don't consider it as affordable anymore. And they're working from home and enjoying the things we have to offer. So in the city, they're working on parks and parkways, and they're doing things to try to make like rails to trails, and trying to make things very attractive to outsiders to come here. But I think spiritually, we can think about ourselves as workers that we'd like to attract and retain. We want to kind of attract our divine spirit itself. So I have some thoughts about that. One is to have a mission you love to support. Just as businesses try to express their mission in a way that appeals to the people involved in the business. When you believe in what you're doing, you'll never work a day in your life. Have you heard that idiom before? I would suggest there's also benefit to articulating what you're about so that you have a personal mantra or motto to return to, and like your life's mission statement. Does anyone have like a personal statement that is meaningful to them? Yeah.
Try this one. I am who I am, and that's enough.
Yeah, that's an excellent one. Anybody else here? Probably online.
How about so what?
So that works.
I can do this.
I just recently just popped into my head the stages of remembering how when I've been the most enlightened and joyful and just enlightened, feeling awake, is there's a process that seems like it gets me there, which is kind of and they all start with L. So it's like, I realized I heard, like, so leaning back into this place of surrender where you trust that you're getting, I don't know how it all works or what works, and stuff that I have come to realize that has truth and the most meaning eludes verbiage. Once you get to that point, there words, it's, you try to put words to it, then it like denses it down and then you've lost it. Anyway, so it was leaning, kind of a surrender, leaning back into, and just that kind of gets you in the moment, and then doing it with love. And those are the main things. I think that if you, like you said, the most important thing of all of this here, which is when you're living conscious as present as you are able, without effort's probably the real deal there.
Yeah.
You know what you need to do in the moment as life unfolds in front of you. You don't have to be clench fist, grit tooth, figuring that out, trying to get it right. Because your personal ego life experience part kind of takes the back seat. And so the wisdom, knowledge flow that we are one with, you can feel it or hear it or recognize it, and we somehow get help doing that. I don't know how that works. Some people call it guides, angels, higher self, God, whatever. But there's more than just me and my little life person that seems to cooperate with my life's happenings. So.
That's great.
Mine personally has been to explore how taking care of our body, kind of the house of our self, and emotions, our mental capacity, and how that interacts with our ability to sit in spirit and then act on how that all kind of interacts and works together. To me, it's just fascinating, and I like to sit with it.
That word ineffable is good because I'm a word person and words are super meaningful to me, and some people are not word people. So the idea of having like a mission or mantra might be just something they're not at all interested in. I used to have a 5-part thing every day I try to do, and it's some words I said to myself all the time, that every day I want to learn something, forgive something, love something, give something, and make something. So maybe I'd write a poem, I'd give up a grievance, but every day I kind of tried to say, did I do that today? And check it off my list. I don't do that anymore, but it was kind of meaningful to me when I did. Another idea from the realm of like spiritual employment: offer fair pay. How can we pay the spirit? We could do things like meditate, sleep, spend time in nature, surround ourselves with healthy options for eat and drink, give ourselves a source of fun, have loving relationships. Anybody have any ideas on how we can pay ourselves spiritually? Fairly?
Gratitude.
Oh, love it. Yes. Gratitude opens a lot of doors. Okay.
I also think self-care is a way to show gratitude,
Yeah,
taking care of yourself.
I like that connection. Absolutely.
Sleep.
Oh, yes.
And the one reason why I say that is he was talking about the interaction between and detoxing, all kinds of biological, brain, heart, everything is connected with rest.
Weight loss depends on sleep. I know if you're trying to lose weight, cortisol is going to build up if you don't let yourself sleep. So exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I would also second the sleep, that's the body repair, that all of that is really crucial, and that there is no bank where if you short yourself on sleep one night by a couple of hours, if you get another 2 hours the next night, then things even out. It doesn't work that way. When you lose that sleep, you've permanently lost that I mean, the body has great mechanisms for continuing to go on and to deal with it, but regularly shorting yourself on sleep, and that's something that I think we tend to do because we want to get everything done, and use sleep as sort of that expendable area where, well, it's okay, I'll just stay up late and get this done now.
And you're the science person. What I have read is that we cannot make up for sleep, whatever, that's exactly what you just said, that there's this idea that I'll work this much today and tomorrow I'll sleep extra. That extra sleep doesn't do anything for today. You never make up on sleep.
It's, yeah, that's completely true. And it also made me think of what you're talking about, paying ourselves spiritually. I don't know if anyone's seen the movie A Real Pain. It's a really fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. A Real Pain. It's playing at the Moxie right now. It's kind of an independent film that was written and directed by Jesse Eisenberg, and probably the first movie I've seen in a very long time where I actually laughed and cried. So it's a really wonderful movie.
Preview for that. Who's the other person in that?
It's Jesse Eisenberg and Karen Craigo.
Oh yes.
Yeah. But the main character is, or one of the main characters, very driven, type A personality, get things done, and he is culturally, familially Jewish, but not religious. And another character there is, he is not ethnically Jewish, but he converted to the religion at some point later, and follows, Shabbat, and he says to the non-religious character at some point, I think it would be really good for you to do this. Or I think it would be really good. And he asks him, do you mean for people in general to have a Sabbath day or for me in particular? And he says, for you in particular. Because in talking to him, he doesn't seem to make room in his life for a spiritual space somewhere to, he's very focused on family, job, all of those things, and not really his spiritual life.
Well, that's great. It's funny because I came today with this idea, like, how is this material going to get us through an hour? Can't possibly happen. But then you guys supplemented the syllabus here, which I appreciate. Yeah.
I want to thank you all very much, because gosh, I just realized a thing that I was thinking lately. I've been wondering, how do you, gratitude's a huge thing, but how do you evoke it? And I've been paying attention to, okay, so pay attention when I'm feeling it. What does it feel like? Consciously think thoughts. So that led me to the jump of a few of what y'all said that made me realize, oh, self-care and in general raising your state is technical planning, prepping, like allowing space and time for. So I was thinking, you said the food, you said keep food around you've planned ahead, because what you bought and you have around you is healthier, whole choices. But I was thinking, and you have to allow and plan the time ahead to meditate, or be centered, or do whatever your version of that is before you go out into whatever time of day, how you do that. Sleep, you have to, sometimes people didn't plan and allow for the personal screen time they wanted or whatever, but anyway, preparation is self-love that I just now realized, it's not the actual doing of it that's as important for me as the thinking how to make the space and the time and the consciousness for that.
Yeah. We're using the metaphor of compensation and benefits from the world of work, but it's really just, how do I write a continuing love letter to myself and do the things for myself that will make my life great. Start at the grocery store, maybe. Yeah.
Well, I had and I just learned this myself, and in fact I should have known it, is that we have to kind of go through our whole body, counting each part of it that I love it.
Yeah.
Because we have to understand is that this is on loan. All of this. This is God that I'm using to walk through this game that we're playing. And technically it's a game. I guess I better hush it up. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to talk to the mic. No, I mean, it's just been so in the last, I'm amazed at how enlightenment works because it never stops. You can never say, I know it, because there's just so much. It's just like we were talking a minute ago. The one word that I find to be the closest I can see in the world that we're in is the word ineffable. There's no explanation. You know, there's nothing that's, so I just will continue to love me and love everything about me and all that I am in order that I can continue to love you and all that you are and all that you will be. And this is, you know, that was the first two laws. The one law is to love thyself, and that's to love yourself completely. And the second law is like the first, love your neighbor as yourself.
What he made me think about when he was talking about talking to his body parts is that, well, that's before Unity was a church. That's what she was teaching.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the Fillmores were teaching when they were doing their little group healing things, was that they were, you know, getting spiritually in tune and loving their body parts to help.
Well, whenever I'm going through a difficult time and stuff, and I want to get in touch with my spiritual feelings, the best way I can do that is to get up, go outside, and walk down the streets of a neighborhood and kind of be a walking meditation.
Yeah. You get outside, you have the fresh air and nature and all the inspiration. I do want to get through my last few little things because we're out of time, but other ways to attract your inner spirit as your employee. Offer humane working conditions. We've been talking about that with all the sleep and everything like that. Reward creativity. The C-suite, the G-suite, it's not the only place that has a good idea, right? Not all ideas need to come from some executive source, because we've got our divine text, our inner genius to drive things. Offer a chance to connect, just like those businesses that do that with volunteerism and stuff. Open the books. When everybody reads the profit and loss sheet in a business, we found that they'll work for the good of the financial good of a business. But make sure that you're really examining your business and how well it's working. And make the rewards meaningful. Do you remember I said some places have air hockey and ping pong tables? Those are fun for a week, right? I saw a picture recently of an architectural firm that had a ping pong table, and they had just documents laid out for people to look at. And probably for about a week, people really loved challenging one another to ping pong. But we know there are rewards that are meaningful, and we should seek those. We should seek the things that really matter to us. So real rewards are lasting and enduring. It's to do with how you feel and how you treat yourself. So that's all I have today, except for the announcements, which I'll grab. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoyed the class.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, here are the quick announcements since I'm running long. Meditation is tonight at 6 and is open to everyone. I go, it's fabulous. The monthly board meeting's tomorrow at 6. Everyone's welcome. Guests should arrive by 6:30. That gives them time to pray and collect your thoughts, check in. And then we can bombard them with all of our stuff. Everyone's invited to our annual Friendsgiving potluck on Thanksgiving at 1 for the spiritual community here, but also for anyone who wants a place to go on Thanksgiving. You can sign up here with what food you want to bring and whether or not you can help with setup or cleanup. Our next Friendship Sunday potluck is December 1st, soup and chili potluck. Afterwards, we'll decorate for the holidays, so bring soup or chili to share. Because next Sunday is Friendship Sunday, we will not have our 9:15 adult education class. Class will resume the following Sunday, and it's me talking about work some more. Our crisis cold weather shelter was open Thursday and Friday last week, and both nights went very well. as we move into winter season, we'll be open more and more nights. So if you want to get involved, talk to Lisa or Lacey for more information. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Mary says, great class, Karen.
Oh, Mary, thank you. Bye, everyone.